We are trans,
bisexual,
lesbian, gay, intersex,
asexual,
two-spirit,
non-binary,
gender non-conforming,
and allies.
We march against the exploitation of our communities for profit.
We march because the New York City Pride Parade has become mere pinkwashing.
We march against police, state, and societal oppression.
In the queer tradition epitomized by the 1969 Stonewall Rebellion.
We march against transphobia, homophobia, biphobia, racism, sexism, and xenophobia.
We march against bigotry based on religious affiliation,
classism,
ableism,
ageism,
all other forms of oppression,
and the violence that accompanies them.
We march for an end to government policies that deny us our rights and our very lives.
From NYPD to ICE.
From the prison industrial complex to state repression worldwide.
We march against poverty and economic inequality.
We march to affirm that healthcare is a right,
including treatment for all people with HIV/AIDS worldwide.
Marchamos para celebrar nuestras comunidades e historias en solidaridad con otros grupos oprimidos.
We march to demand social and economic justice worldwide.
We march for liberation. Ven acá.
Bars or, even like LGBTQ centers, you just are losing that intimacy and that connection you get when you get to be with one another. And I think that's a big refuge no matter what's going on, but especially during a pandemic, it's hard.
queer spaces in New York City are very special, like holy places. To see those lost or kind of shut down was really disheartening, and like it affects you emotionally to see those gone.
Across the world, the lack of queer nightlife spaces has led to a lack of safety for so many people. And in countries that are targeting queer people, finding these queer spaces, or even finding secretive queer spaces that are community bars that aren't necessarily associated as a queer space, but people in the community know that, the fact that those spaces have closed and they've been confined to their homes and they're under lockdown, I think really has forced many queer people back into the closet.
Throughout this last year that we've gone apart from each other, it became even more evident how important physical queer spaces are and how important they are for our well-being, for our socialization, for our empowerment, for not only physical well-being, but also mental well-being, like mental health for queer people. Being around like-minded people is something that is very empowering. And I often think about like majority groups, for example, cis white men in government, for example, they're very empowered. They're in majority most of the time. So to feel that for a queer person, I think is very empowering as well.
It's important that we as queer people, we need to be able to socialize with each other. That's why we had bars, that's why we had cruising places. That's why we had whatever places we had to get together, because we need to know that each other exists, and we need to know each other as community.
Every time I go on Instagram or talk to a friend, I hear about a new business or a new place that's closed down.
One of the things around COVID that you may not be aware of is that for many refugees across the country, when they are resettled into asylum centers, they oftentimes find that their way of finding queer community, for queer refugees specifically, is going out to the community, going to nightclubs, going to bars, finding those queer spaces, finding safe spaces where they find their community. Because of the pandemic, obviously so much of nightlife has been shut down. So for us in the United States, I think thinking of nightlife as being shut down is, of course, it's a community association. You meet friends, you meet people, you have these safe spaces, but it's also a source of entertainment. For many queer refugees across the country, it's actually a source of, finding safety. It's a source of finding their community. It's a source of supporting themselves and getting themselves out of a very deep depression.
I also have found new, community events popping up through places like Prospect Park. So it's kind of shifted where we gather and how we gather. But I think I am really happy that the gathering is happening again, and especially going into the summer and going into Pride Month, really focusing on the community itself.
Across the country, obviously queer spaces are threatened because the queer nightlife in general is based around a bar tab. So many spaces are based around that, the entertainment, the performance. Many queer spaces don't have restaurants attached, or they were really at risk because of the pandemic. I think the other thing to really point out is that lesbian nightlife spaces specifically, even more so than the overall umbrella of queer spaces, I think there's only 17 lesbian bars left in the country. And the Lesbian Bar Project is doing some really incredible research about how to support these bars and how to support these lesbian spaces, because within the queer nightlife umbrella, there are also these factions that continue to be lost just based on the circumstances and based on what's happening in the world. Nightlife is something that is often seen as this extraneous expense, and I think it's something that we really need to invest in for the future of our city.
Thinking about collective trauma and what collective healing looks like, I'm confident that we can take a lot of that trauma out on the dance floor, but I think it has to be done with an extra grain of kindness and compassion and understanding for all of our different experiences.
This is my second one.
Awesome. So you know the difference between the two marches?
I do, and I'm really enjoying the energy of this one, which is not at all like the other march, except that it's also a march. But there are different signs, and there's a different vibe, and there are no police or bank ads in sight. So it's and also it feels more queer. It feels more inclusive for everybody. Not that the other parade isn't for everybody, but this is by the people. Is how it feels to me, anyway.
Thank you so much.
That was my pleasure.
Okay, folks, do not go ahead of the banner. The banner is leaving this park after the bus goes through.
Ven acá.
Everyone's rights are so important, so I'm really glad to be here and be a part of this. Yeah. And support every one of my friends too, and just everyone.
Great, thank you. Do you mind if we ask you a question for our live stream feed?
Of course. No, of course, I don't mind.
What does this march mean to you?
You know, it's important for me because I'm an ally. I have a lot of friends who are like LGBTQ. I remember being 12 years old and one of my best friends coming out to me and telling me that she likes girls. And I was like, oh, like, here you go. So I'm really supportive of this. Like, I love seeing people be free and being who they are and not hiding what they are. Yeah, so this is like, I love it.
Do you think this march is different than any other one you've seen or heard of?
Not really. Well, actually, I think it is because recently with everything coming out, with like everything coming out with like 2020 and being a shitty year and just people not enjoying themselves, like, yeah, I'm really, I think that's the air. People are more like ready to leave and be out, you know, so, yeah.
That's great. We need allies. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
These poems for me are reassertions, are celebrations in themselves, reassertions, questions, the two sides of what we always swing between. There is no answer without a question. There is no empowerment without the recognition of vulnerability or weakness. There is no change without having been mired for a moment in the same. The title of this poem, there are no honest poems about dead women. What do we want from each other after we have told our stories? Do we want to be healed? Do we want mossy quiet stealing over the scars? Do we want the powerful, unfrightening sister who will make the pain go away? Mother's voice in the hallway. You've done it right the first time, darling. You will never need to do it again. But thunder grumbles on the horizon. I buy time with another story, a pale blister of air, cadences of dead flesh obscure the bowels.
Why are you here as opposed to other marches?
Why am I, as opposed to other marches? Well, I suppose if I knew about other marches, I might be there too.
Oh, okay. Well, can you tell me about your sign?
I'm with PFLAG, Parents for Lesbians and Gays, which is of course now a little bit limited. We're leaving. It should be LGBTQ plus and so on. And I have two queer kids. One's gay and one's trans, and they're my kids. Whatever they are, they're my kids. It doesn't make any difference. You love them. And it's a very, very simple principle, and everybody seems to be impressed with this sign, which to me is the simplest thing in the world. You love your kids, you support your kids. That's what PFLAG seems to be about. So I now love PFLAG, which I've been in for a few years. And it's simple. You love your kids, you support your kids.
Thank you so much for being here. Sure. I appreciate it. Have a good march.
I don't know what you've been told. I don't know what you've been told. Bigotry is getting on. Bigotry is getting on. We are loud and we are queer. We are loud and we are queer. Nobody should live in fear. Nobody should live in fear. I don't know what you've been told. I don't know what you've been told. Bigotry is getting on. Bigotry is getting on. We are loud and we are queer. We are loud and we are queer. Nobody should live in fear. Nobody should live in fear. No peace. No peace.
Here's what I know. All dead matter is still matter, every silence still a kind of sound. Every death has a daughter, every tear its own migrant across the map of my face. We've been here before, haven't we? Where the dying teaches the living why and where we go. In the mirror, I see a droplet of water. It is, we are, dissolving. To be Asian and American is to make a myth into a mother, translate grief into a garden, reap the fiction for good fruit. Violence never begins in the barrel of a gun, and our mothers knew there'd be wounding as long as there'd be women. And more. No, tell me. Before the bombs and the burning, before our bodies and believing got encased by borders, what were we? This country built an empire inside of my head. I do not want it. Disavow the supremacy, sweat the white mold out of my ceiling and spirit too. Give me back my grandmother's unbroken heart. Let me wear it like a prayer, press it against my skin, and send ourselves back to softer shore. In Chinese mythology, the carp that fights the current and breaks through the dragon's gate becomes, in turn, the dragon. This grief is a flash flood, a salted river running the length of our lungs. Let's greet each other's tears, meet each other on the watershed side of a someday. No, do not just endure, flow. You are a body becoming the sum of its change. You are the fish that transforms into flight. Every death is a dance with the dirt and our dreams. When our families die, let them find a second soil in the sky, their memory a ribbon suspending the moon into silence. We write to time travel, read to remember what it means to be here and not gone. Meet me in the language, our language, the one with our hands. We hold each other close, keep each other safe. We know the lyric of loving well. Listen. The Chinese woman in my life gifted me 5 pieces of jade, 2 to crown my wrist and my right ring finger, 3 hearts to stitch my mother's and her mother's inside of mine. What good is grief without a mother? I'll never know because we do not die. What I mean is, our bodies are not just bodies, but memory banks for what we sow. Cut the bloodline and the inheritance just bleeds. The other day, I shot up at twilight, dreamt of a bathhouse entirely adorned in nephrite and gold. Here, every Asian woman and femme was forever. Here, our fluid genders baptized by their belonging. Here, the water ran green, every tear a precious gem. Never forget our lineage is this, where the fear sieves itself into soft syllables, where our bodies flood themselves with familial faith. We are the river and its reach. We are our ghosts and all our gods, and we are not the ending of any body, but the beginning of every breath.
Everyone say hello.
I'm just always here. I'm not sure.
Yeah, in this mark? Okay, cool.
Yeah. I'm sorry for a boring answer.
No, I'm not agreeing.
Yeah. It's a good question. What other answers did you get?
Well, this is different from the other march, the HOP march.
Yeah.
So do you feel the difference in this march and the other march?
What's the other march? Last year?
The HOP march, a totally different thing where there's the floats the corporate sponsorship.
Oh.
We have none of that. No floats.
Oh yes,
no
that's right. Yeah.
corporations.
It feels. I don't know how to answer that either, because on the corporate side, I worked for corporations and I was one of the people who would say like, hey, let's do something, right? Let's bring, the acceptance into the corporations to some kind of, I'm not really sure. I mean, we don't like that things that are being monetized, by the corporations, but at the same time, I'm an immigrant, so if things like that, if even corporations did something like even in Kazakhstan, it would make life so much better.
We're all immigrants.
I'm a very recent immigrant, so I got a political asylum here because my life was in danger there. And if the corporations in other countries were acknowledging pride in any way, maybe I didn't have to leave my family, and then like flee, right? So it's kind of like a double-sided kind of question. But that's like a diversity of perspectives that I could offer.
Glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you.
So can you let me know a little bit about Gays Against Guns?
Gays Against Guns was formed 5 years ago after the Orlando Pulse nightclub massacre on June 12th. The first presence of these silent protesters, they're human beings, they're all veiled in white, and we first brought them to Pride 5 years ago as the 49 humans lost at Pulse. Now we take them everywhere for every type of gun violence victim. These particular, we have 9 individuals that are represented who are trans lives that have been lost in the last just few months.
Yeah.
Since April, these are the 8 individuals that we know of that have been shot generally because they're trans. So we're bringing attention to the space that should be here. These people should be able to be at Pride. So this is what they are representing to show everyone what it looks like with that many people killed by gun violence in this country.
That's okay.
which is probably one of the peaks of my life. She turned me into a prison abolitionist with the first sentence that she said. She said, the only reason why the government or anybody needs to regulate your gender is because of the prison system. Because at the end of the day, when they put you in handcuffs, they want to know which prison are they putting you in.
For those who don't know, yes, I am an entertainer and an activist, but I am also formally incarcerated. It was a year into my incarceration before my hormone therapy continued. They had put me in a dorm situation. It moved me to a gang unit. And in that gang unit, I was raped. 24 hours later, I was beat. That left me 3 months to heal. DOC didn't allow me to send mail out. They didn't allow me to make phone calls. But my mother, she had her mother's intuition to know something was wrong. When my mother finally was able to see me, it was like 6 months in to my incarceration. So her seeing me, I'm already scared to talk about anything of what's happening, but she knew her child. She knew something was broken in my eyes.
It's this system that does not support the sustainability of a Black trans woman, of a Black trans man, or any community member that's in that institution. That institution is designed to break you.
And prisons are, in fact, a site of violence of every single kind, including sexual violence. And that violence becomes particularly dangerous, harmful, and targeted for trans people, whose very existence disrupts the lines of power that prisons are meant to uphold.
I want to state my privilege. I've never been incarcerated. I don't know what the material reality of incarceration is like. And it is a privilege because the reality is, as a trans person and as a Black trans person, we're so close and we're so often the targets of police and so often the targets of incarceration.
We already know in our community that trans people are much more likely to be surveilled, to be policed, to be criminalized, and to be incarcerated than cisgender people. And what we know is that prisons and police have never kept our communities safe. Police and prisons are not about safety, except for the perceived safety of the white, cis-abled, wealth-privileged class. And even then, the police don't work the way that they're supposed to.
Often, we see a great deal of our community being policed, and we don't speak up about it. The LGBT community, the trans community, are often policed, especially when they're of color. When they end up incarcerated, I know people assume that, oh, I'm a trans woman, I have breasts, and I'm put into a man's prison. Oh, you should have a good time. No, I'm not a kid in a candy store. That shit is modern day slavery. I was stripped of all humanity. I was made to be nothing more than a project and a number. Maybe COs, maybe other incarcerated people. I was damaged and I was broken and I was voiceless.
It's an inhumane system that tells you you're not okay and it's okay to do anything to you. I think the government fucks up because they don't understand. Nor have one of them punks ever spent a day in jail and know how terrifying this is, how mentally debilitating it is, or how very life-threatening it is to be behind bars.
Abolition is like the only way forward. And I mean, abolition of like getting rid of the prison system, and not just private prisons, but all prisons, and getting rid of the police and all the sorts of systems and structures that are negatively affecting our lives. Because if you look like across them, from the healthcare system and the fact that we don't have universal healthcare, to the way that the police regularly stop, frisk, incarcerate, punish, all of that, we trans people are always like in the center of it. There's always stories, maybe people don't talk about it, but we're always there experiencing the worst, the brunt of this marginalization. And then you add all sorts of other identifiers like being Black or being an immigrant, and I think there's a lot to say. There's so much to say, but the fact is, we need to get organized. We need to lean on these lofty ideals that people tell us are like too big, because the reality is like what we're experiencing right now is too big. And so we deserve a really big solution. And I think that's the only way we're going to get liberation and happiness if we move forward, is if we leaned on those things like universal healthcare and abolition and trans community building.
Thanks.
Struggles and tribulations that are still happening to the queer community. So it's important because it is the protest and it is back to our roots of Stonewall.
So you feel there's a difference between this and the other march?
Absolutely. This is way more grassroots. This is way more valuable to me. This is something that means a lot more because it's not other entities kind of subversively trying to get money out of us by selling their products just because they slapped a rainbow on it.
Perfect. Thank you.
No worries. Have a good day.
Thanks. You too.
Boom. Hey. Hi, I'm Viva Ruiz to say thank God for abortion. The joy in the project is intrinsic. It is a reclamation. We're reclaiming our perfection. When I started to rip on that, people around me who were having all kinds of queer and gay sex were shocked. This whole community that I belong to as a queer person, as a fluid person, were not only ignoring us, they were upset at this being brought in as a queer thing or as a gay thing. If I'm offending you, I'm glad, because you're contributing to suffering by seeing yourself as separate, by seeing yourself as seeing abortion as a straight thing. It's not a straight thing. It's a people thing. It's a love your neighbor thing. It's a race thing. It's a class thing. It's an ableist thing. It's a gender thing. So you who are into this Reclaim Pride thing, it's really convenient for gay people, for queer people, for assimilated people to think that abortion is about straight people. Who's allowed to have sex? You know, I mean, Reclaim Pride. You all know, like who gets punished for the kind of sex they have. What do we have in common here? We have inherited a lot of shame as queer people, as people who've had abortions, as people who have glorious gender variance. We've always been here. Queer people have always been here. Gay people have always been here. Trans people have always been here. Abortions have always been here. Yeah, I don't really see gay liberation without abortion rights. It's not going to happen. Queer people have abortions. Gay people have abortions. Trans people have abortions. Like, what else do you need to know about that? If you're white, it is your business to stand for Black lives. Like, you don't have to be Black to know that white supremacy has to end. So you don't need a uterus to be out here in these streets for us. However, and queer people have abortions. Gay people have abortions. They're who you identify as also. And that's why abortion is intrinsically a queer issue and a gay issue, because it's a human rights issue. It is at Pride what it is everywhere else. Like, some people love and a lot of people hate and think we're out of place. If you think we don't belong at Pride, you're one of the reasons that, Black women, trans people, undocumented people, low-income people are being forced into childbirth. Okay, there's no gray area here. Like, either it is like you want your rights for you, then you have to be going real hard for this shit right now. Have some gay pride, support abortion rights. Have some queer pride, support abortion rights. Sign up, keepourclinics.com. You can sign up for a monthly donation. It's time. It's time to stop being so delicate about abortion. Your politeness has led to this moment where people are suffering. So queer people, especially, you're watching Reclaim Pride. Who suffers the most without abortion access are Black women, period. Trans people, low-income people, and undocumented people. I mean, having abortion be a part of Pride is a way to really take it out of that straight cis centering. It's cool to be a part of this kind of amplification for Reclaim Pride, because I'm telling you, for sure, there are people out there, gay men I know, who think they like me, who are like, why is she in Pride though? It's abortion. So for you, you're late and you're wrong. No gay rights without abortion rights. The time is now. The time is now. And there's no gray area. Abortion must be legal, safe, and free for everybody, period.
Good for you, good for the planet, good for the animals. I guess
Been to?
Well, this is our very first march, so I'm super excited about it. I came with my daughter.
Oh, terrific. Glad you're both here. Did you hear anything about it beforehand that gave you an impression?
Yeah, we heard that it was a lot of fun. We heard that we were supposed to come last year, but you know how that turned out. So we were super excited to come. We just heard it was amazing, positive, loving, all of those things. So we definitely wanted to come and experience it.
Terrific. That's the best things could be.
Yeah.
Thank you. Enjoy.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
I'm Kyan Doroshow. I'm the founder of Glitzing. That's gays and lesbians living in a transgender society.
I'm Krishna Rutia, use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm a co-founder of Prep for All. Prep for All is an activist group that fights to make sure that everyone has access to the HIV care that they need.
My name is Jamie Sapiro, and my pronouns are he, him, and I am the founder of Intersectional Voices Collective.
My name is Reginald Thomas Brown. My pronouns are they and them. I am co-chair of the board of Vocal New York. Vocal stands for Voices of Community Activists and Leaders.
Hello, my name is Serja. I prefer no pronouns, but I'm okay with any pronouns, and I'm an independent creative director.
Sex positivity to me is removing shame that surrounds sex.
Sex positivity means I feel good about my sex, and I got this from my mother. My mother always told me to never be ashamed of my nakedness. There was nothing wrong with that, so I got that sort of thing from her. You know, not to run and hide if somebody said, no, there's nothing to be ashamed of. So, like I said, sex positivity is just something I feel very good about having sex.
We can have sex in so many different, really good, fun, exciting ways.
Sex positivity is essential for us as a queer community.
Consent, I think, goes hand in hand with sex positivity. I think the earlier we start learning about sex, the earlier that we start embracing sex and sexuality as a piece of our existence and something that makes us who we are and something that we do have free reign to explore, and it only makes us a more versatile, for lack of a better word, individual.
I think one of the biggest fatal flaws in the way that we've dealt with sex work in this country is consistently passing laws and doing things that invalidate the rights of sex workers without actually including sex workers in those discussions.
A lot of Black trans women can only find work and make a living by doing sex work.
The privileged sex worker actually will not get arrested, will probably be bailed out, will probably be fined. that survival sex worker will be jailed, fined, beaten, raped. The list goes on and on.
We're not listening to the people who are most affected by a lot of these things, and we're not respecting them and letting them do their jobs and live their lives with dignity.
It is very important for people in our society to embrace radical sex positivity because it is a part of life. I think that we embrace, in the United States, we embrace radical violence on an everyday basis through the films that we see, through just the content, to the conversations that we have. I think that sexuality is something that has been so stigmatized, and the moment we start having more conversations about it, again, I really think this connects to the conversations of consent. I think it allows us from a very young age to start understanding sex as something that is not dirty and secretive and that we have to push to the side and not discuss, but it allows it to be something that we talk about openly.
The stigma around sex work is going to start kind of crumbling down.
How many college kids have went through school and paid it off because they were sex workers?
Oh, sex work is important simply because sex work is work.
Sex workers, I feel like sex workers in the queer community, like, they kind of go hand in hand. Like, there have been queer sex workers for a millennia.
Because sex work is work.
A large part of the reason why we have to have a queer march is because we couldn't have sex with each other.
And that's why I'm doing what the fuck I'm doing.
And I think it's fun. I think that radical sex positivity is like, why not? We're gonna be on this earth for a very limited amount of time. Why not explore what there is out there and find really the thing that makes us tick?
It's fun. I like it. A lot. A whole lot.
Sex positivity to me is owning your own and having the space to actually live out your dream or truth, living the best you. I own my transgenderness. I own the fact that I am 100% black and trans and powerful and doing the work, and by the way, a hoe.
Well, I'm here because I want people to know that everybody deserves acceptance and love, and whether you can walk or roll, and just everybody has to be loved for who they are.
Why are you here today?
She said it. That was just beautiful.
Great. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. Have a great
Just quick stuff. Why are you here?
Because I just came out as gay with my boyfriend Alex, and this is my first experience, and I love it. Yeah.
He just came out. He just came out.
We're proud of him. And I'm 60 years old. I'm 61. And this guy helped me a lot.
I'm the one who brought him out.
Yeah, but now I love now I'm in love with this guy. Yeah. And we're happy. I haven't been in New York forever. I live in Connecticut, and I'm happy to be here.
Are you from here?
I'm from the area, Paramus, New Jersey, and I've been coming to the parade since like the 80s, and I've just seen it grow, and I'm glad there's an alternative, because I think the parade is great, but we really need to kind of go back to the roots of Stonewall and get more of a feeling like this. So, yeah, thank you so much. Awesome.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you too, congratulations.
Yeah. I've been coming to gay pride marches for 50 years.
All right. If I had
So my name is Inesu, my pronouns are he, him, his, and I work for the International Trans Fund. Liberation isn't just based on like where you're specifically located. It's based on the world. It's an idea that everyone is not free until we're all free. And so I say, like, educate yourself, learn about these amazing organizations, go to the International Trans Fund page and like read about some of these groups. So many of these groups already have their own social medias that you can follow and learn about. Expand your knowledge of what it's like to be trans. Like, learn about trans indigenous identities that exist in the US, that exist all across the world, because that is also like armor that we can use to protect ourselves. It's not just happening here, it's happening everywhere.
I'm Kyan Doroshow. I'm the founder of Glitzing. That's gays and lesbians living in a transgender society. I started this kind of because trans refugees started calling me. We've seen so much crime in this world, but my community has watched it for decades. It starts right at the top. It starts from the government, and it just dwindles down on into society, and it cripples society. Then society cripples us. We need to have better bill writers. We need all these people that think they're woke to wake the fuck up, really. The fact that Joe Biden did his speech and mentioned trans lives, fabulous, just fabulous. I'm gonna need you to do more than that. I don't have too much faith in Kamala Harris at all. She was in San Francisco, for Christ's sakes, what does she do with them? I'm gonna need something a little stronger, a little better. I'd like to sit down with that young lady and have a talk with her about some of her policies in San Francisco. Our leaders fail us in not understanding who we are. And you can't understand that from a Caitlyn Jenner. You cannot. There's nothing that bitch got to say about my life because she's never lived my life. Our president was gonna do anything, and I think if he's gonna say, I support my trans sisters and brothers, you damn well better make our murders a state of emergency. And it has to be a president that says this is not okay, worldwide. Somehow we have to protect our brothers and sisters globally. That work of helping somebody live, that's the work.
My name is Edafi Okboro. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm the executive director of RDG Refugee Shelter in Harlem. There are 3 ways in which queer refugees face obstacle. One is at the border, coming into America, trying to prove that they are queer, quote unquote, which is kind of difficult if you come from a country where you cannot express your gender identity or your sexual orientation. Secondly, when you come to America, you are being kept in a detention center with a wrong gender identity, and that heightens the kind of persecution you're likely to face. And if you are living in America and you discover your country conditions change and you have to seek protection, there are no legal services, there are no form of protection like social security, housing, or healthcare. This makes it more difficult for people coming to seek protection, kind of like preventing people from coming to America to seek asylum. But 4 years under Trump was really hard for queer refugees. The Biden administration has promised, but nothing has really changed. So when you hear that 70 countries it's still illegal to be gay, I am one of those people. I come from Nigeria. In my own country, in 2014, they passed a law that criminalizes same-sex marriage by 14 years imprisonment. Even last 2019 and 2020, the Polish government was trying to create an LGBTQ-free zone. So what do those people do? We flee to countries that would accept us. Most of the times, people think that America is the most accepting when it comes to queer refugee. That is not the case. People fleeing from danger in the Middle East, they go to Lebanon. In Africa, they go to Uganda and Kenya. In Central America, most people even go to like Guatemala, Honduras, and they start a life there. But gay rights in America is single-minded. It's focused on the expression of queer Americans and not what is happening outside America. Home is not a place, but a feeling. Because what it means to be a refugee is to lose the right to your birth home, and you have to find a new home. I sometimes miss the culture I grew up in, but that culture is so toxic to who I am. So if I cannot express myself back home, it's no longer home for me.
My name is Mohammed Kiwamin. I use he, him, and they, them pronouns. I am the founder and executive director of the Caribbean Equality Project, and we are a Caribbean immigrants' rights organization based in New York City. Currently, we have Black and brown people that are still being deported under the Biden-Harris administration. We saw a lot of this that happened in 2020. We saw a lot of it happen throughout the Trump administration, but it continues, and it's continuing under the Biden-Harris administration. And these are our LGBTQ brothers and sisters that came to this country for safety, for hope, for survival. So for folks that are watching this today and you are celebrating Pride, also know that today's a day to redistribute money to grassroots organizations. We also need to tell our stories, and our stories are the ones that are part of what Pride is. There is no Pride without diversity. Pride is love. Pride is joy. Pride is resilience. Pride is liberation, queer liberation, black liberation, trans liberation.
My name is Serja. I prefer no pronouns, but I'm okay with any, and I am an independent creative director. Currently, right now, with the Biden administration, we have just recently seen that Biden has decided to up the limit on refugees in the United States to around 62,500 a year. That number was diminished over the last 4 years to as low as 15,000 under the Trump administration. And while this number of 62,500 seems like an overwhelming amount of refugees, or a very large number, in 2016, when Obama was leaving office, that number was close to 85,000. And now with the COVID pandemic, the numbers of refugees across the world are increasing. So we're actually in a point of time where our country should be increasing the number of refugees admitted per year. But unfortunately, the Biden administration has also said that they don't see the possibility of actually reaching that limit of 62,500 this year. In my own refugee experience, when I came to the United States, I feel like over the past, 4, 5, 6 years, we've seen that refugees have become villainized. And I think also within the queer community, I think that for so many people, the phrase refugee means something that means someone that is coming to my country and trying to take something from me. And I think that can also exist in the queer community. And I think it's important for us to continue to kind of break down the whitewashing that exists within the queer community, that exists within many Pride celebrations, and then incorporate folks from around the world, really make this an international celebration of self, and that when one of us rises, the others rise with us, and really incorporate refugees into that narrative.
My name is Uchechukwu Onwa, and I use him pronouns. I'm a gay asylum seeker from Nigeria originally, and I work as a co-director with the Queer Detainee Empowerment Project. The first time I watched Pride on TV, I was still living in Nigeria. Just seeing how people were just being out on the street, living their life, holding hands. That was what I wanted to do. I was crying when I was watching those things. Immigrants are excluded in so many of the relief funds that is coming up from the government. We didn't get anything, but we have to be the one to kind of organize mutual aid support, organize resources for ourselves. Our story is our power, and we have to really know how to kind of channel our rage to really change the system that is oppressing us.
to you?
Everything. Actually, this is like my first time going there.
Great. The first time. Have you ever been at a march or the other parade?
No.
Wow. So how does it feel to you?
It feels great. It feels opening, great, spiritual. It's just everybody's so happy.
I feel love. I feel like joy. Like you can feel everything. Like each like tone. Like when they wave their flags, you could feel the step, the voice that we want to speak to everybody, and we want to be clear that we are here and we love life. Like, can we enjoy life?
Exactly. No harm to anyone. Just let us live.
Yeah. Right.
Where are you from, may I ask? You don't have to answer.
I'm from Yonkers. Yonkers, yes.
Yeah, I'm from Westchester.
So you're in the area.
Yeah.
And this is your first march?
Yes.
You gotta come back next year.
Yes.
I promise.
Thank you.
All right.
In the United States as it is, our health care system isn't actually about providing care. It is about feeding the bottom line. And for as long as we have racialized capitalism and white supremacy and ableism at the bedrock of our health care system, the system will never serve trans, gender nonconforming, and non-binary people. Disability justice and trans justice are health justice. To understand the failings in our healthcare system, we have to understand that as a problem of ableism, of white supremacy, of trans misogyny and transmesia.
Navigating the healthcare system as a Black trans person is one of the most difficult things I've ever done.
When it comes to the trans community seeking healthcare, oftentimes providers don't understand that our needs and our respect starts the moment we walk into facilities.
It's from hello. It starts at hello. It starts at their very front desk you walk into, how you're received, how you're treated. It's giving that person a holistic feeling that they are in a space where they're safe.
I know in my life and in so many of my friends' lives, like we put off going to the hospital, we put off going to the doctor, not only because of the lack of health insurance, because we don't want to deal with a transphobic situation or an uncomfortable situation with a doctor. Who wants to have to explain for the 10th time for many trans people that day why they're trans and why they're there when they maybe have like a stomach issue or something?
I'm not asking to be treated like the queen that I am. What I'm asking for is to be treated like the basic human being that I am, that you should give all of us.
I think it starts with letting us take care of us. I think it starts with severe training. You have to know your niche market and know them well. And that's where we have gaps in the system. People don't know us.
Like, I feel like I'm a doctor to the doctors because I have to explain to them what's happening in my life, how it makes me feel, the fact that I literally can't leave my house on certain days because I don't feel good in my body. Like, and to have to explain yourself the person who's supposed to be explaining what's going on to you, explaining options to you, and you're sitting there being like, no, this is what the experience is. This is what it actually feels like. And I've learned more actual factual information about what it is like to transition, what it's like to take hormones and everything from trans people than I ever have from any doctor or anything, resources that they ever provided me.
A healthcare system that actually serves our communities would be one in which the healthcare providers come from our communities.
Us being in these rooms, being in the medical profession, we have to not become jaded because we've been there so long.
There's a great deal of trans men and women who have become doctors themselves and nurse practitioners and LPNs and RNs and patient care techs. And that right there is a blessing in itself.
But healthcare is about healing, the holistic and physical. And we fall short of that because our care is, they treat us like we fall short. We need to be on top. We need to feel like we're on top. And I think by community, taking care of community, it sets the tone to change.
To create a system that actually is about serving us, the goal of the system has to be health care as defined by the communities that are most impacted, as defined by people who have the most to lose, as defined in a way that recognizes and values our inherent worth, our dignity, our bodily autonomy, and our magnificence as human beings.
Can you guys let me know what's your favorite part about Pride?
Celebration of love, the colors, the festivities, the love, the acceptance. It's amazing. Like everyone's just out. Love is love.
Love is love. How'd you guys find out about Queer Liberation March?
Word of mouth, really. We were saddened that Pride wasn't happening, and then we went to this one last year. It was fun, you know.
Awesome.
True. How do you say it? The true spirit of Pride. We march, no noise, no frills, just fighting for our rights.
Absolutely. That's the goal. And you?
Love is love.
Eloquent as ever. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
What does the march mean to you?
Oh, I'm just sitting here sharing with my friend that how special it is to like everybody's like liberated and feeling great and you know, just being themselves. That's the main, like, that's it. Just being yourself and being happy and accepted, you know, so.
Is this the first time you've been to a march like this?
Oh, no. I usually come to the Pride parades every year. So it was nice to be able to come here just to, you know, just to be part of it, you know, and seeing how far we've come.
Yeah.
You know, that we could have a parade and celebrate like this and feel safe.
Does this feel different than the other parades you've been to?
For me,
yeah.
For you, it does feel different. For me,
in some ways, yeah, but in some ways, it's still us showing ourselves that we're here.
Yeah, for me, it feels different because, like, I was always sneaking to the Pride parade and then tell people where I was going. So, like, this one is different because it feels like stronger, like there's more support. You know, it feels more supported. I haven't been to a parade probably for 10 years. So, you know, so this one feels really special.
You mean the other one,
Yeah, usually I'm on the train, just like sneaking away, where now I'm sharing with my friends, oh, I'm at Pride, you at Pride, and, you know, so, yeah.
You come back next year?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're very familiar with it.
I'm from Long Island.
Right now, so maybe around the bars here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I have a twin brother. He's straight, though. I don't know if that helps.
Well, thank you all.
Happy
Y'all, can you guys let me know why it's important to you to be here with the Queer Liberation March today?
So it's important to me because I have a friend over here. We came up for him, Josh. So we came all the way from Michigan. We came from Michigan. And then I have some family members too and friends. So we just came out to support.
That's crazy. Thanks for coming all the way from Michigan. Are you guys having fun?
Yeah. All right. So much fun. We had so much fun and we're coming back next year.
I'm so glad.
Hey, my first Pride. I love it.
Happy first Pride. Oh my gosh. Well,
we are enjoying it. We love it. We love it so much.
Fantastic. I hope you guys have a great day. Happy Pride.
My name is Andrew Niki. I use they, them pronouns.
She, they. She and her.
He, him, they, them.
He, him, and also they pronouns.
They, them.
He, him.
I use he, him pronouns, but I also answer to everything.
Over the last couple months, maybe even year, I felt like I've really fallen out of my self-care routine. Like I didn't get to process the pandemic and like what everyone was going through because I was like kind of excusing the good things that were happening to me. So it was like a clash for me in where I was in my headspace. And so that's when I started therapy.
That first bit of quarantine where it was just like, what am I gonna do? I don't like DJing online. Am I still gonna be DJing at all? Like, when are we actually getting out of this kind of thing? I feel like there were so many things that were up in the air and so many things we didn't know. I couldn't go home for a year and a half.
A lot of people have moved out of the city.
I would, go to the park, just being around people, just physically seeing people just like dealing with the pandemic and not that we have to be shut inside and like worried all the time or concerned all the time. Just seeing life go on, was really powerful too.
I would say with COVID, it's definitely allowed me to be more in tune with myself, especially not having as many people as I'm normally used to having around me on a daily basis.
I feel like I was able to get closer to a lot of people in less of that hectic environment of an event or whatever it is. So it was nice to just sit down, like go to the park, meet people, and just like appreciate each other's time and talk. And now it looks like, okay, we need to get back to work and create the spaces again because we're outside, like everybody's excited to be outside and we need places to go and feel safe and be with each other.
It's really helpful just to be existing as like a Black trans person with other POC or other queer people and trans people. We still have each other through everything.
Having a community allows you to grow in that community as well and learn more about yourself and others and how you connect and navigate yourself within this world.
A lot of my friends have been a lot more politically active, especially with like creating work around the revolution and what's happening back in Palestine and all over the world, So it's very important because the community is what's gonna take us to liberation.
That's why I started DJing in the first place. It was really to create more spaces for us to be. Like I was tired of just going out and just wondering where are the queer people? And then you go to like one event and we're all there. And it's just like, wait, but where are you every other day or every other day of the week? We gotta find ways to cultivate space for us, which was really great and really fulfilling for me.
I don't know who said it, but I know it was a quote, and it was something like, the definition of health is done in community. So there's no separation of what healing and community is.
Healing looks like deconstructing some part of your past that might have been painful and just tackling it from different angles.
It can take a lot of time, but I think what it looks like towards like the end or when you're able to say, oh, I'm healing, is when you're able to not give power to whatever situation you're healing from.
Healing is not easy. Sometimes hiding behind it or pushing it away is easier, but healing is also self-care.
Self-care to me means working for myself, doing what I love, following my heart, speaking my truth. Practically, it means drinking enough water. That's like one thing that I always make sure I'm hydrated because I think that's always overlooked in self-care.
For me, my main self-care practice is what I call the me date. And it's just taking the time out of the week and just take myself out, solo dolo, go to a restaurant or a museum or something and just be with myself.
I like to write a lot, just getting all my feelings out on the page, makes every problem I have or issue I have more tangible.
Self-care is shutting my door, being in my room, turning something on
the TV and scrolling my phone.
Just taking a deep breath and just checking that like you don't have your shoulders all up, you know, your tongue isn't at the roof of your mouth kind of thing. Just trying to check in with my body.
I love to dance. I love to make time to travel. Napping is my best friend. It's very important to rest, especially since I give so much of myself through the work that I do.
Lately, I've been loving like my hair wash days, because usually those days I like listen to music and be creative. Also, like spending time with my partner. Those nights, like I laugh the hardest and I sleep like a baby.
Okay, sweet. What's your name?
My name is Quell.
Nice to meet you, Quell. Could you let me know why you're out here marching with us today?
We are out here marching today because we are representing Workers' World Party. We are a socialist organization. The oppression that LGBT people face, the oppression that queer people face is inextricable from the oppression of the working class and the economic oppression that we all face. We are protesting against police violence, we're protesting against ICE, because all of these struggles are linked. The class struggle, the queer struggle, they're all tied together. And we're out here marching with our fellow LGBT people, our fellow working class people, to stand in solidarity with them, and so that we can build towards a workers' world.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. If people want to be part of the cause or help out with the cause in any way, how can they do that?
If you're interested in Workers' World Party, you can go to workers.org, and you can find out more information about us there.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your story.
It was a shame to see people with HIV and AIDS who, remember or can speak to what it's like living in the AIDS crisis right now, having to kind of work through now living with an added or new crisis.
Actually, it reminded me of the initial time of the AIDS epidemic when it was going on. I was not in the United States during the height of it to witness The Walking Dead, but it was the same type of atmosphere that I had people looking at me in a way that, I don't want to touch them, the same way that I felt when I was first diagnosed HIV positive. I thought, oh my gosh, no one wants to be around me. I got the same feeling that people were pulling away from me in the elevator or in other things. I said, I've been through this before.
Our community is not strangers to
pandemics and epidemics. We've been dealing with the HIV epidemic for decades now, and there's a lot of trauma that comes with that, of course. What's really interesting about COVID is that all the things that activists and HIV activists in particular have been screaming about how our healthcare system is broken in this country, really kind of were highlighted by this pandemic.
For me, COVID did not particularly freak me out. Since I've been living with HIV since 1984, I've been accustomed to doing things necessary to keep myself safe. The only negative impact I felt was the lack of human contact. That really weighed heavy on me. I missed hugging people.
The LGBTQ community is bearing the burden of COVID, just like we bear the burden for HIV and AIDS.
In a lot of low and middle income countries around the world, people don't have access to vaccines. And it reminds me a lot of what happened in the HIV epidemic when we had treatments that were only available to, people here and not available internationally. And a lot of the people who fought to make those things available globally were queer people. It was the queer community who, didn't just shrug their shoulders when we had access to ARTs and antiretroviral therapy, and not even everyone in this country has that, but actually fought to make sure that people around the world could get the care that they needed.
The vaccine rollout hasn't been that successful for folks who are immunocompromised and who are disabled, the way that there hasn't been that much targeted outreach in a way that honors the complexities of Black people in their neighborhoods, just things about the entire way that our government and the way many governments have handled the crisis hasn't been with care and intention with these specific communities. There's reasons why trans people can't just go into all sorts of health centers and hospitals and feel comfortable to access the vaccines in the way that others do.
I was number 5 of getting the COVID-19 vaccine study with Moderna, number 5 of 30,000. I've been vaccinated since September. A couple of the primary reasons I went to this study is because Black people are woefully underrepresented, and I wanted to see how it reacted to HIV. Initially, neither Pfizer nor Moderna wanted us in the study, and the HIV community rose up and said, oh, hell to the no. We will be a part of this study. As it turns out, COVID-19 vaccine, my HIV, and my viral load play very well together.
When you're dealing with medical care, for queer people, I think we have to talk about stigma and the stigma that people face when they're going to get that care. People have had bad experiences in the past with their practitioners. So I think when you have something new come along that's threatening people's lives, and you have a short amount of time to reach those people, it's a big challenge, For this year's Queer Liberation March, ACT UP is helping organize COVID vaccinations for the march itself. We're talking to the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene about where they should be placing vaccination tents to supply the march. This is a march that's going to have about 40,000 people. So we're expecting that, even by late June, there still might be 20% of the community at least that's not vaccinated. Now we're at the point where we need to bring vaccines to where the people are right now.
What's your name?
Jessica. My name's Jessica Jordan. I'm an intern for the National LGBT Cancer Network.
Awesome. It's nice to meet you, Jessica. Can you tell me a bit about your sign?
Yes, we're out here promoting data collection for our queer members in our community because there's not enough collection in terms of healthcare service. and we're disproportionately affected a lot by the different cancers, and no one talks about that. So we want to bring awareness to our own community about what's going on with us and how you can get involved.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. And why do you think it's important for you to be out here marching today?
Great. I think personally, as a Black woman, I think it's important for people to see that there are people of color who are queer, and we are here to present ourselves, and that we can't be silenced, no matter if you try to silence us racially, because we're gay, because of our skin tone. We will always be here, and that's why I march.
That's amazing. Jessica, thank you so much for being out here today, and thanks for talking to us. Thank you. Have a great...
I start feeling like
Thank you. Sorry. Oh, perfect.
shut. Yeah, it was like late August.
as a city, as like a nation, we all really took advantage of that moment of silence and just sitting in our homes to actually see what was going on the entire time. And so for the entire world to shut down just really allowed everyone to hear specific marginalized voices.
Many trans people struggle to find stable housing and stable access to income. And, in a time like the pandemic, it's been especially difficult for all people to find those things. And I think that trans people are often on like the lowest priority list for our government. And I think this is like a tradition of trans people, is that we know how to like find community, we know how to organize really well to protect each other, because we know that our governments aren't going to do that. And I think that trans people have been doing that across the world and across the US in light of COVID. I've seen so many mutual aid groups like specifically for queer and trans people prop up. I've seen community fridges prop up with a focus and things for trans people. So we're doing all this work no matter where we are to take care of each other, because we know nobody else will. And we got to.
Unlike most communities, the queer community already is limited in the ways in which we can interact. We already have to be very specific about the spaces that we inhabit and how we inhabit them. And so I found that queer people and people in nightlife were some of the quickest people to respond and to create spaces that people could actually be in. When white people get uncomfortable, that's when change begins to happen. And that's part of what this entire pandemic has been privileged people realizing that like, oh wait, things can affect me too. The queer community really jumped into supporting each other, really jumped into making sure that everyone had what they needed to get by.
And there's, the newfound way that we all started coming together online, and obviously, especially last year with all the protests that were happening, I think there was this kind of moment of remembering, at least for me, part of why I love being queer, which is the sense of community and togetherness and the idea that we can rally and organize around things to make an impact.
We already had all of these different ways of connecting despite struggle, that like when this happened, I found that as a Black trans woman, I felt like prepared for it. Staying inside because it's not safe outside is the thing I've literally had to do simply because of my body, like literally just existing.
The powers that be, they want us to be alienated. They want us to be this whole thing of every person for themselves. And that is not the way people work. That is the capitalist way of doing things. And capitalism is toxic if it's used the way it's being used now. So it's just a way to keep people isolated. And if you isolate people, then you can manipulate their fears. You can sell them things and make them feel that they belong, when actually all they need to be is around people, and not to take something or have to buy something in order to feel like they belong.
There's been a resurgence of mutual aid, and especially the way that we've decided to shift focus from the nonprofit industrial complex and just the way people are organizing. They're saying why should we rely on large corporations and large orgs that are supposed to be to our benefit giving us money? Why don't we just give the money to the people? And that's been my favorite thing to witness, is the way that we realize that we can tangibly affect one another's lives by actually putting in the work and actually doing shit. I've seen it in the queer community in smaller ways, but to see it blossom and have people be you're a trans person in need, here's some cash. And that's beautiful to me.
I feel like we've all, as queer people, get put under this umbrella of queerness or transness, and then have to kind of sort out our different experiences. But I think with the reckonings that have happened in the last year, I think as a group, we have a better understanding of the different experiences that people have in our communities.
We haven't just been saying let's look at just us. We look at everyone because we know what it's like to be left out.
After this, we have a new reverence for our connection to each other. I think that people understand that we like going out, not necessarily because we're about to go meet a friend, but because we're being with our people. We're being with our people. And our people include people you don't know, include Black trans people, include sex workers, it includes all these people. And now more than ever, I have people who are can I subscribe to your OnlyFans? Can I do this thing? Okay, what are you putting out? And realizing that Black trans individuals, we need money. Yes, we love the post, we love the sharing, but we need money. And I think a lot of people have been clued in as to what people actually need.
A way to move past it is to talk about it. And as we talk about it, we start healing from it. We start sharing resources, sharing solutions, sharing remedies with each other.
I feel really excited about the future of the queer community and excited about the future of queer activism in trying to create a more just and equitable healthcare infrastructure that we obviously so desperately need in this country.
It really aggravates me when people are like, oh, all of a sudden these conversations are happening. It's like, no, people have been saying the same shit for years, decades. And I think one of the great things about COVID was it forced everyone to actually take the time to listen.
It requires a lot of work and of fighting and pushing to make sure that we take this as an opportunity to build a better world and a better country and a more safe place for our queer family.
When it comes to coming back, I think we're about to really understand a new definition of community. We're gonna really understand a new definition of support and a new definition of what it means to be a community member, and understanding that being a community member means having power. That means that you have power in the things that you do, you have power in every single decision you make, and that power means that it affects somebody more disenfranchised than you.
I don't think it'll ever be the same, honestly. I feel like the year that we've been through, at least maybe not in our generation, the year of collective trauma that we've experienced, I think will live on for a long time in our lives. We've had to heal collectively before. And so I feel like we'll just keep doing it again and again.
Literally, the word unity is in community. You can't unify with your own goddamn self. Yeah.
My sign says, Mutadamanun mal Palestine, in solidarity with Palestine.
Absolutely, big agree. Thank you so much. Can you let me know, how'd you find out about Queer Liberation March?
Through Jewish Voice for Peace.
Oh, that's awesome. Is that a group that anyone can get involved with?
Yeah, it's an anti-Zionist group, mostly for Jews, to say that being opposed to Zionism is not the same thing as anti-Semitism.
And if people want to join up with that or follow you on social media, where can they do that?
Just Google JVP, Jewish Voice for Peace.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a great March.
Thank you.
For those of us living here in America, while life is not easy for us, we do experience a relative level of privilege in comparison to so many people of our same race, people of different races, and also of the same background in the queer and trans community all over the world. You know, I've been privileged to work with migrants making the transmigration journey from Central America through Mexico into the United States border, and to see the very specific issues that they face and the parallels between those in our community here. I think it's time for all of us to be liberated together. You know, the liberation and the freedom of one group of people is tied to the rest of the world. And so I think we have to, like you said, collapse those borders and think about how we operate in solidarity with people who really, the regions like Central America, even the labor of Mexico, it has been exploited and stripped of all of its resources in order to make the U.S. empire rich, in order to give us the luxuries and the privileges that we have today. We need to start thinking actively and creatively about how we repair the harm in those communities and how the resources and the power with which we invest and build our society is not used to continue the domination of others abroad. And it's extremely important that we work in solidarity with trans communities, Black, Indigenous, and people of color all over the world to achieve our collective liberation.
I'm turning up by myself.
Marching, and I am showing up because my life and the lives of our folks depend on it. And I encourage people who have to stay home and can't be there to support virtually. And there's lots of other ways to engage and support movements. But I'm personally going to be there because as a Black trans man, as a Black non-binary person organizing, if we're going to talk about Black liberation for those of us, right, who are fighting and struggling for that, to be there and be central in that. And also for all the folks who won't be there, who won't hear about it because they're not connected, who won't be able to leave because their shelter is harassing them, who are behind a wall in prison or jail, right? I'm also coming out there for the folks who can't.
I've been trying to get up here all day for your gay brothers and your gay sisters in jail. They write me every motherfucking week and ask for your help. And you all don't do a goddamn thing for them. Have you ever been beaten up and raped in jail? Now think about it. They've been beaten up and raped after they haven't spent much of their money in jail to get their cell phones and tried to get their sex change. The women have tried to fight for their sex changes or to become women of the women's liberation. And they write STAR, not the women's group. They do not write women. They do not write men. They write Star because we're trying to do something for them. I have been to jail. I have been raped and beaten many times by men, heterosexual men that do not belong in the homosexual shelter. But do you do anything for them? No. You all tell me to go and hide my tail between my legs. I will not longer put up with this shit. I have been beaten. I have had my nose broken. I have been thrown in jail. I have lost my job. I have lost my apartment for gay liberation. And you all treat me this way? What the fuck's wrong with you all? Think about that. I do not believe in a revolution, but you all do. I believe in the gay power. I believe in us getting our rights, or else I would not be out there fighting for our rights. That's all I wanted to say to your people. If you all want to know about the people that are in jail, and do not forget Bambi Lamore and Dora Marks, Kenny Messner, and other gay people that are in jail, come and see the people at Star House on 12th Street, on 640 East 12th Street, between B and C, apartment 14. The people that are trying to do something for all of us, and not men and women that belong to a white middle class, white club. And that's what you're